course, a lot of you know that it's probably not a good idea because when you borrow a lot of money, well, we have a lot to pay, regardless of what happens. That's what debt is like. It doesn't really care how well your company does. You are obligated to pay, so you pay. If you have a lot more left after paying, fantastic. If you don't have anything left after paying, they don't really care. If you can't pay, then they start making demands that could be costly for you. So there's some limits. Okay? That's one end. And just because you want to borrow, okay, doesn't mean lenders be willing to lend as much as possible too. So think about the moment, okay, about if you put yourself in the shoes of a creditor, you want to evaluate someone whether they are worthy, okay, of your credit or not. Well, actually, has anyone come across, okay, the root of the word credit? What does it exactly mean? Credit used in settings not related to finance. Okay? You credit this achievement to someone. So there's some meaning associated with it, not in the term of finance alone. It turns out, okay, the word credit comes from a word trust. That's the root of the word. You give someone credit because you trust them. Both credit in terms of respect, or credit in terms of financial credit. So when you're trying to evaluate a credit evaluation decision, you are in essence evaluating whether they're trustworthy or not. So that's why we break into two components, right? Do they have the ability to repay? Are they willing to repay? We talked about this several times. Ability to repay is easier to ascertain. Because if you want to break it down even further, you can repay on two things: what you have and what you make. Just down to that. So this will give you a natural limit as to how much you can borrow. That's why when we looked at the data you guys collected across different industries, we see some patterns. Okay? Different industries tend to have more debts versus other industries tend not to. One of the reasons is on the supply side. I want to borrow, but the creditor doesn't supply credit to me because they don't think I'm worthy of their credit, not worthy of their trust and so on. So we can break it down further. Right? What you have and what you make. Then what exactly about what you have and what you make makes lenders happy. So we have to put ourselves again in the shoes of the lender. Lenders don't really care how much you make per se, as long as you make enough to pay them. You can make $1 billion baht, you can make 100 million baht. If you only owe them 10 million, as long as you pay them 10 million, they're happy. If you make less than 10 million, then they start getting concerned. So naturally, they pay more for a downside. That means the stability of your income matters to them. If your income is risky but high enough, they're okay. But if your income is low and stable, they're also okay. That is why you have special credits in Thailand for people who are like civil servants and so on. People who work in relatively low paying jobs compared to private sector, but you know for sure they're never going to be fired. You can do a lot of things in Thailand as civil servants and still not get fired. So the trustworthiness in terms of the ability to repay is big. So not just the amount per se, but it's also about the stability or the volatility of how much cash you make too. On the other end, that's why freelancers have such a hard time getting credit. They can make a lot of money, but the money can be gone the next month if there's no job. So they strike a balance between the two in making that decision. There's also the collateral. We talk about collateral. Some of you guys talk about the fixed asset component. It's really about the tangibility. If you want to dig even deeper, it's not really about that per se, but it's the tangibility of the asset that makes things easier to repossess. In reality, there are two components you have to think about. The first is the ease of repossession. How easy is it for me to go and take your stuff? People love real estate because you can't run away with your real estate. But you also have to have the second component. Are you legally able to repossess that or not? Okay? There are lots of things that you can take possession of, but the law doesn't allow you to. You can do it illegally, right? If you look at loan shark businesses, your collateral can be yourself, your family members, your health. If you don't pay, I'll break your knees. You're using your own safety and your safety as collateral. That's illegal, but it's effective, right? So you have to trade off between what is legally acceptable and what is convenient and what's effective as well. So that's how lenders evaluate. So in Thailand, for example, a lot of things that we had in the past law tend to be things that are more tangible, hence you can touch them. But now we're allowing for more intangible things as well, including rights. If you go to Jaeng Watthana and you go to that government center, that huge building, the government needs to find a lot of money to fund that construction. So the way they fund the construction was that they issued bonds. Okay. But these bonds are not, usually bonds are backed by the faith and credit of the government. So the government will be the ones paying them. But they wanted to make sure that I increase, okay? They want to make sure that I increase the credibility of my bonds too. So the government says, you know what, I'm going to issue the bonds and I'm going to pay you out of the revenue from this building. I'm going to build this government center and ask all the government agencies to come in. They're not going to stay for free. They're going to pay rent to the complex. And the rental income they're going to get in the future, I'm going to guarantee that they will go toward paying your bonds. This is called securitization. We turn future cash flows into something that is collateralizable. Without a law that allows this, you can promise, but there's no legal recourse to getting your hands on that. So in the concept of collateral is there, but you go to different countries, different financial systems, what's acceptable as collateral will then depend on that country as well. But this is what allows you to borrow. Okay? This will allow you to borrow. So the more you can borrow, okay, all else equal, we tend to see companies in those industries like real estate, for example. I had another group do this, and they take automotive companies like Ford, GM, and so on. And those companies also use a lot of debt as well. Airlines use a lot of debt as well. We have the theory, right? The theory said, in isolation of other considerations, we say when we borrow money, we pay less tax. So this seems to lead to a conclusion where let's borrow as much as we can. Because the present value, PV here, PV stands for present value, DTS stands for debt tax shield. So you think of this as tax savings. The value of the firm is the operating business itself plus the value of tax savings. And the tax savings depends on how much debt you have. So one conclusion is to say let's use as much debt as you can. But it's not reasonable. Because that's only one thing we're considering. There's also other things that we have to consider when we have debt. And the most important thing is bankruptcy. If you have no debt, you can't be bankrupt. It's very hard to force bankruptcy. But when you do have debt, creditors have a much easier time to force bankruptcy upon you. And bankruptcy, okay, does not sound like a good thing for you because bankruptcy tends to be designed for creditors. These are ways of creditors who legally force you to repay them. Now, bankruptcy law, again, depends on different countries. Some countries protect lenders more, some countries protect borrowers more. But it's a proceeding that allows a renegotiation and allow creditors to get their money back. But we're not going to go down that path, the legal path. We want to talk about companies that are bankrupt versus companies that are bankrupt. Suppose you find out a company, okay, is bankrupt. Would you want to do business with that company? Right? Where do they find the money to pay us for? Let's take one step back. You think the company is about to go bankrupt. Are you going to do business with them? Still no? But they're not bankrupt. They're going on normal. But they may be bankrupt. That's the important distinction. We don't need companies to be bankrupt. We just need the companies to be sufficiently in bad health that it may be bankrupt soon. And that's what we're going to talk about as the second picture, cost of financial distress. When a company is in bankruptcy, okay, there are lots of costs companies have to pay, like legal proceedings, business interruptions, and so on. But that's when they're in bankruptcy. We're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about when the company is not in bankruptcy. So we don't need to employ lawyers, but you suspected of being bankrupt, and people treat you differently. This is what we're going to talk about. We call this the indirect cost, okay, of bankruptcy. Direct costs are like what I talked about, legal fees and so on. But the indirect cost is you're not bankrupt, but you are suspected of being bankrupt, and then people treat you differently. And the way they treat you differently leads to a loss in your value. Things would have been better for you, but you are suspected, so they treat you differently. So think of some examples. You don't want to do business with companies suspected of being bankrupt. Say, as customers, why don't you buy from them? Sorry?
They may try to drop their quality.
Okay, it's a trust issue, right? They may like cut corners to give you low quality products to survive. Okay, good. Let's say last year about this time there were talks about Tesla going bankrupt, might go bankrupt. Tesla is very popular, but with this news, does this affect your view of, does this affect your decision of buying a Tesla if you don't have one? Would you, change your mind? I was planning on buying a Tesla, but now that they're about to be bankrupt. So you may think, no, because if I buy a Tesla, I need services, I need maintenance and so on. If they're bankrupt, who's going to do it for me? As employees, when you see a company about to go bankrupt, how do you feel? As maybe new applicants, when you apply to a company about to go bankrupt? Actually, this is an interesting question. A lot of you said no, right? But it turns out, if you take the data, one of my advisors back at Kellogg did a research on this. So what he did was he took a lot of job applications from, I think, Monster or something. It's like basically like job venture equivalent over here. So a job search website and also like a headhunting agency. So he took a lot of job application forms and he matched them to companies' financial health and see that companies in bad financial health versus good financial health, do applicants treated differently? Turns out it doesn't change the number of applications. People still apply. But that's one item on the application form that is different compared to companies that are good because companies that are bad. So imagine yourself sending an application form to a company about to go bankrupt. What would you change on your application form? Okay, what would you do to that? Oh, they're about to go bankrupt. You're going to increase your salary? Make them bankrupt more?
Because if they hire more resources,
okay.
soon.
Very good, fantastic. That's exactly what happened. People increase their expected salary. The bad news of the company, you're about to go bankrupt and then they treat you with this news. Okay, I'll work for you, but I wage. What's going on in their mind? Actually, would you do this in Thailand? No. But US people do it, and that's the reason why. Because when you're in bankruptcy, as employees, you get paid before creditor. So if you demand higher wage and your contract says you have to be paid this wage, you will get it. So the argument is that we demand higher wage because we know this company, we're not going to stay long enough to get promotion anyway. So I'm going to take all the possible promotion in the future, incorporate that in my salary demand, and then make the most while I can. We may have different interpretations, but empirically, that's what happened. From the company perspective, it's still bad news. Remember, you're not bankrupt. You're not bankrupt yet. But people say, if I'm going to work for you, I'm going to have to charge more. Another bad news. Suppliers. Do you think suppliers will sell to these companies?
No.
Some might. But they'll probably say, what, we usually have 60-day credit term, right? You want to buy from me, I'll sell to you, but cash only. Cash only. I can give you same price, but cash only. I can't give you payment terms. I'm sorry about that. Right. Before you get a credit term from suppliers, say, I think if you do, I try to buy things from OfficeMate. It says you can open a business account and get credit term, but to get that, please send me your financial statements. So they want to verify. But you can actually afford to pay back money. I'm not sure whether it changed or not, but last I'm aware about this time last year, you can go to OfficeMate website and you can open open an account for business account. Then they will say, if you do want trade credit, please verify that you are actually in good financial health. Otherwise, I won't do it for you. When you are almost in bankruptcy, okay, one way you can get out of this, you can sell your existing valuable assets, okay, to clear off your debt. Suppose you're an airline. You are in serious threat of bankruptcy. You want to sell off some of your planes so that you can, pay off debt. So I put my 737 or whatever, A320 on listing for sale. How do you think people are going to respond to that? Are they going to give me a fair deal? We're in the same industry, so we need to help each other out, right? So I'm going to give you a really good price. 100 million, how about 25? They know you really press for money, right? And the thing that people like to do the most is take advantage of people's situation. So this is called a fire sale. If you're not in bankruptcy, if you're not in bad financial health, you probably have better time to find good buyers. But if you really press for time, then you really need that cash, people take advantage of you, so you have to sell it for a price way below what you would have gotten otherwise. But again, remember, you are not bankrupt. You are suspected of being bankrupt. People treat you differently. Yes?
Question. The company is listed on the stock market, but rather companies know if the company is good or in a bad financial.
How do you find out your friend is dating another friend? Same way. Right? Rumors. If you suspect to be in bad financial health, there's going to be some signs. Be very small sign, but people pick up on these things and then they gossip. I'm sure you see this in workplace. People gossip about everything. That's even the book Sapiens says the real reason why humans can evolve is because we are built to gossip. If we don't know how to gossip, we wouldn't be ruling the earth right now. The ability to gossip allows us to send out information, true or not, but we can convey information about things related to ourselves or even unrelated to ourselves and still enjoy it. So, yeah. But on the flip side, if you run a factory that sells rubber band and plastic bag, like the one you use to sai bath in the morning, and you are about to go bankrupt, do you think your customers care? Actually, do you know who makes the rubber band to buy? I don't really care either. So if I'm bankrupt and then some new owner comes in and then runs a factory, still produce all the rubber bands, do you think the customer would even notice that it changes hands? So just because you're about to be bankrupt doesn't mean it's costly for you. There are some businesses, that suffer from this more than others. For example, businesses that really need to show your identity. We have like self-branding. For example, if you're like a consulting company and then you go bankrupt, chances are nobody's gonna hire you ever again. So for you, this is more pertinent for you. But if you sell some, commodities, like the rubber band I gave example, then nobody cares. You can use lots of it and go bankrupt. Then somebody's gonna come and buy the business and operate it again. People don't think differently. They didn't even know you exist in the first place. So what this says is different businesses have different exposure to this cost benefit stress. Not every business actually suffers from this problem. Oh, by the way, one last jigsaw. There are two elements you have to consider, right? Different businesses have different exposures, but I can be a business that is highly exposed to these costs of financial stress, but as long as I don't use any debt at all, my likelihood of being in bankruptcy is low. So not a problem for me. So you need two pieces. Are you a business that is prone to this problem? Good. Then you are vulnerable to this problem. So if you use more debt, then the problem will compound. But if you are susceptible to this and you use no debt, then no problem, because you're not going to be bankrupt. Right? So you need two pieces for this to be costly for you. So if you think about this in terms of the framework we looked at earlier, the value of the firm depends on the value of the operating business, the 11th part, and then the value of debt tax shield, which is increasing in how much debt you use. But if you use a lot of debt, you can be bankrupt, and this cost of financial distress, the CFD stands for cost of financial distress, then this also brings your value down. This leads to what's called a trade-off theory. When you use debt, there are two things you consider. Okay? Any business, as long as they have sufficient cash flow and business and profits, and your tax rate is not zero, of course, you can benefit from debt tax shield. This is no brainer. It's not really business specific. But different businesses have different exposure to cost of financial distress. So this means some types of businesses may avoid using debt because they don't want to expose themselves to this problem. Other types of businesses, no problem. I can always get away with it because my cost is quite low. So they tend to be more suitable for using lots of debt. And if you think a lot of this is being driven by business models, which tend to be similar within industries, then according to this theory, then we expect to see similar businesses use similar leverage, have similar capital structure. So when we look at real estate, look at telecom, they're quite similar. One way to justify this is that they think about this. They think about the benefit of debt, of course. And for those businesses that use lots of debt, for them the cost of financial distress isn't that important for them. So they end up using more debt than others. You can visualize this in this way. On the y-axis is the firm value, and the x-axis is how much debt you use. So in the absence of the cost of financial distress, it says if you use zero debt, this is your baseline business value. You use more and more debt, the value is going to increase. But hey, in reality, the more debt you use, the more cost of financial distress is going to be relevant for you too. So there'll be at some point where the benefit of debt kind of is being outweighed by the cost of debt. So you reach this optimum point. This is conceptual. It's actually very hard to determine this for each company because cost of financial distress is notoriously hard to quantify. We can talk about it conceptually, but for each specific company, it's not very easy or even possible to pin down what that number should be. We can talk about general terms. This business is more exposed than other business, but exactly how exposed, not sure. So this is meant to be a conceptual illustration. If we believe in this idea, then for different businesses, they should have their target capital structure. For me, maybe 20% this business. For say solar power plants, not a lot of uncertainties. You can use lots of debt, and also even if you shake hands, nobody cares because you don't even know where our power comes from. So they're going to use a ton of debt compared to something that may be more like a brand specific that needs to rely on that kind of reputation and so on. Okay, so this is one theory of capital structure, not the only one. We can talk about other theories too. So the third friction, I think now the first two frictions were tax. When we pay tax, more tax gives us higher tax rate, gives us tax shield from using debt. Friction number two was cost of financial distress. You use more debt, yes, you benefit more from tax shield, but you use more debt, you also put yourself at jeopardy of the problems we talked about. Friction number three can be isolated from 1 and 2. So now let's just turn 1 and 2 off. We look at 3 in isolation. Before we were looking at 1 and 2 together, and that gave us the trade-off theory. So let's turn 1 and 2 off for now, and then go for 3. Asymmetric information. Economists like to talk about asymmetric information, but the idea is like this. What I know versus what you know need not be the same. Right? You may have different knowledge than me about some topics and so on. But we generally want to think about what information they're talking about. So we have to be specific about what exactly do you mean by information that you know more than me. But the general setting is this. One party knows more than the other about something. This is called asymmetric information. Okay. So let's talk about one type of information. Let's take the clock back about, how long now?
8 years.
8 years. Okay, thank you very much. 2011, right? You were thinking about buying second-hand cars in 2012. Okay, so you visit a tent.
But not living. Just
It's actually happened quite more often than you think it does. So I think last year around January, this kind of thing happened to a smaller scale, but enough to flood the cars. So you're looking to buy a second-hand car, right? You go into a tent and then you ask around, hey, I want to buy a car, please. Can you recommend a car? So the car dealer, second-hand car dealer comes to you and says, I really recommend you this car, right? It's fantastic. If you look at the odometer, it hasn't been driven by a lot or fantastic conditions. I really recommend this one. You don't know about the history of that car. He knows more. He might not know everything, but he knows more. So say if that car has been underwater, what do you know about a car that's been submerged underwater? What do you think insurance companies do to those cars after that? Do they fix the cars for you? You can't fix cars that have been submerged. You can, but it's never going to be back the same again. You have to fix it over and over and over again. So back then, insurance companies, their solution was, I'm going to buy it from you as a salvage. And I give you cash instead, and then you go buy a new car instead. Because if I have to keep fixing this for you, I think I'll just pay you once instead and be done. So they take the cars from you. Where do you think the cars end up? No idea. No idea. If you watch US or Japanese movies, and there's a car graveyard where they compact the cars into metal cubes. We don't have that yard in Thailand. We don't have that technology. So when cars become trash, they get parked along somewhere. Or worse, could end up at these second-hand tents. But you don't know. Right? You don't know. You don't know. Let's just say the car wasn't submerged underwater. Okay. You're interested in the car. The odometer says, oh, it's only been driven for 20,000 kilometers. It's 5 years old. So the owner loves it so much. Can you trust the number on that? Anything is possible in Thailand if you even turn back time, if you turn back distance. So it could have been driven for 100,000 kilometers, but you just put in a machine like the drill light thing, and then turn back the odometer by 80,000 kilometers. Now it looks new. Okay, so you check that point out too. You're not sure whether you buy this car, then 10 p.m. at night every day you get an extra passenger in that seat. You don't know either. So that's also a risk. Now do you want to buy second-hand cars? I don't know. Some information is easy to verify. Right? With the extra passenger, you can always invite a monk to come and see the car, so he can tell you. I don't think that's the right car. The other one is better. I sense some serious power here. But even a most trained monk cannot see whether the car is being submerged. The point I want to make across is this: you don't know. The seller has more information than you about this car. The seller knows whether he's selling a good car or bad car. So you go and ask him, hey, is this a good car? What's the answer?
Yep.
Just like when you go to a restaurant, what is good here? Everything. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Maybe something more informative than that, please. But yeah. Always good. So you're in trouble too. This is insignificant information about the quality of the good you're looking at. You don't know the quality of the car. He knows. You don't know. You try to ask him. He doesn't tell you. So what happens? Well, if you take a raw rational, if you think that what you do is, I'm going to look at many cars in this tent, and I have to come up with some estimation of what's the proportion of bad cars and good cars in this tent. There are 100 cars out here. Do I think there are 20 bad cars? Or do I think there are 50 bad cars? If there are 20 bad cars, when I offer the price, I'm going to be incorporating the fact that I could be getting a bad car. But as long as I buy it at a low enough price, okay, I will be happy to take that risk. But if the proportion of bad car is really, really high, you may say, you know what, I'm not going to offer you at all. I'm not going to buy from you. Sorry about that. Economists call this breakdown of the market. Okay, the market breaks down. There's no price you want to offer because you think it's not worth the risk at all. Okay. There's even a term in the used car market for this, right? When you buy a car, you either getting a lemon or a peach. Right? It's like when you close your eyes and pick up something. Lemons and peach are arguably quite similar. Maybe hard to tell just by touching. So you really want to be picking a peach. It's more valuable than a lemon. But you don't know whether you're going to pick a lemon. So the more lemons there are in the market, the less willing you are to participate in the market. Or even if you do participate in the market, you're not going to be very confident in offering a good price. Now, the problem here is that I'm the 10th owner. Okay, all my cars are good. I tell my customers all my cars are good, but my customer doesn't believe me. Whose problem is it? I'm telling the truth, but he doesn't believe me. So what can you do? So there's a very famous marketing case study about introduction of new cars in the market. So if you think about US market, they're very proud of their cars. They have Detroit, basically the modern automobile come from the United States. So if you're American customers, you want to buy American cars. You're used to that policy. Now this is back in 1990s, I think around that time when, long time ago, when Korean, Japanese, and so on manufacturers are trying to enter the US market. So let's say suppose you're a Korean car manufacturer, selling say Hyundai or Kia, and you tell your customers in your marketing campaign, my cars are very good, buy it, and then you won't regret it. As a US customer, Korean cars are foreign, unfamiliar. Foreign is one thing, but foreign in the sense that I've never had experience with these cars before. Would you want to trust the marketing campaign? Right? Because they say words are cheap. You can say whatever they want, but if your words don't carry any meaning or trustworthy information, then why should they believe you? So if you were in charge of marketing new cars in the listening market, how would you convince your customers that your cars are really good?
Maybe a very extended warranty.
All right, and the idea is that if my cars are very good, I offer you a very long warranty, then does it matter for me? If my cars are very good, I give you 5-year warranty because I know in the 5 years you're never going to see me. My cars are that good. On the other hand, if I am a bad manufacturer pretending to be good, and I offer you a 5-year warranty, what do you think is going to happen to my company? I will bankrupt my company by doing that. This is what's called a costly signal. I want to send a signal, to my customers that yes, I am a good, I am a good product. I am a good type. I have good quality. A costly signal and credible signal means the one that if you send out this signal, say this signal is like a warranty. If you are a good guy, this action costs you nothing. I can give this out and it doesn't hurt me. But if I am a bad guy pretending to be a good guy, it costs me a lot to pretend to be a good guy and taking this action. Okay, so that's why warranties and so on commonly use mechanisms for people to reduce the fear of customers. Now we go a long way from finance. Where is this taking us? When you're raising funds, you're selling your company. When you sell your company, you tend to know more than a buyer. So you could be a used car, literally, right? But your car, I know my car is good, but I can't just tell my customers that my car is good. There's no way for them to really believe just my words. So what can I do to signal confidence? That's one thing. We can talk about signaling later. But let's be a little more specific about our problem over here. This is called adverse selection. There are two types of asymmetric information. This type is called adverse selection. Before we talk about what the word is, adverse selection refers to a situation where whatever you're considering, you don't know the quality of what you're buying. So when you don't know the quality, you are kind of frightful, you're afraid. You don't want to be offering a very good price for that investment you buy. And this is a problem, okay, for a person selling. Because I could own a very good car. I could own a very good company. But the price I get for the piece of company I am selling might not be worth it compared to what the investor is willing to pay. And that's what adverse selection is, because as buyer, you don't want to be buying bad thing. Adverse means bad. Selections, you select it, you buy it. When you're selecting things, you don't want to be selecting the bad things. You want to protect yourself from buyer perspective. That's why you have this defensive mechanism, and then go through this by your reduction in valuation. This is very well known problem. Long time ago, you talk to if you have US friends, you ask them how are second-hand car dealers treated in the States. They are not very regarded highly, not regarded very highly, because they always have an incentive life. So it's not a relentless problem. There's a very famous research paper on this, but that's not the focus of this problem. The indication of this is when you sell a company or when you sell a car has a value. A car should be worth 300,000, but the customer says, you know what, I'm going to pay just 200,000. So you may refuse, but you really need the cash. You have to take that loss. Okay. So from company perspective, you're raising financing. I want 10 million, please. Okay, sure. I can give you 10 million in exchange for some shares or whatever. But it turns out the shares I give out is worth more than 10 million. That's what it means for this fear to exist. Investors place a lower valuation on you. I think my company is worth 100 million. Investors say, no, I think it's worth 50. So I can give you 10 million, sure, but 10 million compared to 100 is a lower percentage than 10 million compared to 50. So in order for me to give you 10 million, you need to give up a lot more of your company. That's one example. So in situations like this, right, everyone tends to have an incentive to overinflate your valuation, what you're worth. With investors who are either shrewd or either conservative, who then try to batter down your valuation. What this leads to is, if you're raising this financing to invest in something that you think is productive, the NPV you get from investing is going to be lost through this channel. Because if you raise financing for 10 million to invest in a project with NPV of say 1 million, for simplicity, you invest 10 million for a project that has NPV 1 million, but the 10 million you raise actually costs you, in terms of the fair value you give out, costs you 15 million. That means you receive 10 million for a piece of company that should have been worth 15. You lost 5 to the investor. If you're using that 10 million to invest and get 10 back, you're still losing 4. So it might not be worth it to raise financing. This comes from the information asymmetry. So the implication here is that if you raise external financing, financing can become expensive. And here expensive is used in the right context now. Expensive in the sense that you should have gotten more money, or you should have given up less of your company in exchange for the same money. But the deal you got put you at a disadvantage. You may really need the money, so you accept this because the use of your money is a lot more valuable. So you're willing to accept a bad financing deal to finance a good investment opportunity. But it could get so bad that you say, I'm not going to raise the money. I'm just going to give up on the project. That's entirely possible. So companies that are fearful of this have solutions. Because the root cause of the problem is that we disagree. You and I disagree on what this company should be worth. That's why we have this mismatch in valuation. And in the end, investors always win. If you're asking for the money, then it's going to be what they ask for. I think my company is worth 100. If they say it's 50 and you want their money, then it's 50. You're at their mercy. So how do we solve this? If the key driving force about disagreement of value, are there other things that you could do and give you money too, but less susceptible into this disagreement. This is called the pecking order theory, and let me show you why. Okay. Suppose you start off with cash. If you have cash, you don't need external financing. The whole problem comes because you have outsiders who don't agree with what you know. They are cautious of what your company is going to be, so they tend to undervalue your company and so on. So skip that. Don't rely on external financing. So how a company do this? Well, if I have a ton of cash on hand, anytime I want to invest, I don't need to go and disagree with investors. So I think you class had Apple, Facebook, and so on, right? Very correctly, tech companies. That's why sometimes tech companies don't. That's why tech companies keep a lot of cash on hand. Because if you have a lot of cash on hand, then I don't need to go through the pain of external financing. I don't need to go and answer questions. Answering questions is painful. Answering some types of questions are more painful than others. So, if you run out of cash, what do you do? Well, you go to borrow. But there are types of borrowing where lenders don't ask too much question. You're going to borrow money, right? Do you have collateral? Okay, you have collateral. Then I don't ask any question. As long as you give me collateral, I'm fine. So you can start off with secure debt first. Once you run out of collateral, then you can start with like unsecured subordinated debt and so on. But still, debt is better than equity. Because when you are trying to sell equity, you have to convince your shareholders of how fantastic your company is. When you try to convince your creditor, you only have to convince them how not bad, I guess, my company is. As long as I can pay back my debt, they don't really care how good you are. They care a little bit, I guess, but not as much as shareholders. They care more about the downside. So the more you go down this of your, if you recall, the list of the financing source listed from top to bottom that we seen earlier. This is the list of priority and also the list of questions they ask. Because after all, the lower down the champagne tower you are, the more questions you're going to ask. Because you need to know, am I going to get my money? If there are lots of other people in front of me, I need to know a little more than the guys before me. Because, once they're done, they don't care. But when they're done, I'm not done. So this is what the pecking order theory is. And the pecking order theory, if you search the word pecking order in Google, you see a picture of a hen and little chicks walking in a line. It just means the ordering. Okay? Pecking order here just means the ordering, because when chicken walk, they walk in the order of how important they are, apparently. So the importance of the order is like this. You want to use sources of financing that are free from disagreement first. How? Your money. You don't need to disagree with outsiders. Start with this. Once you run out of your own money, then you go to sources that are less problematic first. The ones you have to answer fewer questions. Then you go down the line. So what this means is, if you're a company that is prone to this disagreement, you're not going to go to external financing market. You're probably just going to stick to yourself and make a lot of cash. If you don't want to talk to outsiders and disagree, they don't know what my company is worth. They don't know how to value my company. The stock market value is one thing, but when you ask people to put in more capital, they ask a lot more questions. So I'm going to just accumulate cash. And if I'm profitable, I don't need to rely on external financing at all. I can just keep my own profit and rely on that going forward. But if on the other hand, my company needs to raise external financing, you're going to see people borrow first. You're going to see people borrow money first before they issue new equity. Empirically, most companies, once they enter the stock market, they never issue equity again. They never issue equity again. Based on this theory, it's because once you start issuing equity, there's so many questions that people ask you. You just don't want to go through the pain. So if you had a choice, you would rather borrow money first. The implication of this theory is that, well, there's no target leverage. Whatever debt that you see the company use, it just means they don't have enough of their own internal resources, so they have to borrow money. Companies that borrow more, maybe companies that need more investments and so on. So maybe we don't expect to see any pattern within industry. It just depends on the different histories of the companies. But what we do know is if they need to raise financing at all, they would prefer to borrow than use equity. That's a pecking order theory. There's actually one more thing that I haven't written on here explicitly, but I think it's worth talking about, is that when you issue equity, it's typically not very good news for you. Empirical evidence, okay, if you gather the announcements of companies that decide to issue more equity, on average, the moment the company announces it wants to issue more equity, the stock price goes down. Well, the company needs more financing, so maybe needs more financing for investment, but I don't know. I'm going to treat it as a negative signal. So let's second guess, why is it that when a company comes out and issue new equity, stock price goes down? Well, based on this curve, if the company needs to issue equity, it probably has run out of options already. Because based on this theory, it would rely on other sources before raising equity. So if it does raise equity, then maybe it runs out of sources. There's another theory which is consistent with the stock price going down as well. Because let's imagine, if you want to sell your stocks, okay, as an investor, would you want to sell your stocks when the price is too high or too low compared to value? Say the market price is 10 right now. So if the value is 8, would you want to sell or buy? This is worth 8, but people want to pay 10. I'm going to sell. The price is more than what it should be. If price exceeds value, this is expensive. As investors, you want to sell. As a company issuing stocks, would the company want to sell more stocks when it's overpriced or underpriced? A company is like an individual too. You like to buy low, sell high, so do companies. So, if you think companies can buy low, sell high, one information that company has over individual investors is that you probably think they know more about what their company should be doing. So if you see them come out and issue new stocks, then either number one, you don't have any more money, so you need to raise external financing. Or number two, I don't need money, but I see the stock price right now in the market is pretty high. I think it's really high compared to what I should be worth. So I'm going to sell stocks anyway to sell high. Both of these are not good news. Both of these signals bad things about company. The first one is company has run out of money. The second one is, the company's stock right now is overpriced. So the moment the company issues new stock, that announcement tends to have a negative reaction associated with it. So this means the converse is true. If I see a company come out, not sell stocks, but buy stocks back from the market, this is called a share repurchase. Then the other way around, thank you, right? If you buy low and sell high, so do companies. So if they buy, they probably think the price right now is too low compared to value. So remember, one way to signal a car was to offer warranty. Because if you give a warranty as a good car manufacturer, it doesn't cost you anything. If you give a good car a warranty as a bad car manufacturer, it's very costly for you. I am a good company. My value is high. The current stock price is low. I'm going to go out and buy my shares. For me, it is a fantastic transaction because I'm making money from this. If I'm a bad company pretending to buy back shares, then I am paying overprice of my stock. I am actually losing money. So people tend to interpret share buyback as a more credible action. If you're willing to buy back your shares, it probably means the share price right now is probably too low. So once I observe companies buying back shares, then this tends to be a positive signal. So if you go back about 2-3 years ago, when stock market was going down, you observe a lot of companies who come out and say, I'm going to buy back my shares. Right now, I think some companies are doing that too. Stock price be going down a lot in the past 3-4 months. And some companies with a lot of cash on hand, they're coming out and saying, you know what, I'm just going to go back and buy shares instead. Because this is a good use of money for my shareholders. So this is not covered in the sheet I gave you, but it is also in accordance with the adverse selection theory I told you about. We're not sure whether this company is good or bad. So in terms of raising external financing, this can happen. We're not sure whether company is good or bad, but company managers probably have more information than outsiders. So if we observe their actions, in particular regarding buying back shares or selling shares, we can infer something that could be informative for us about them. Okay. The next friction is agency cost. Agency cost arises when there are different parties in the company. And there will be several situations of different parties, how you define them. Okay. One way of defining different parties is, are you a shareholder, in parentheses, owners, or are you a manager, in parentheses, employees? Okay. Principal is the owner. Agent, someone who acts on behalf of someone, is the employee. You can replace the word as owner-employee problem. And if you put yourself in their shoes, then you start to see. If you're an employee, okay, if the company does well, do I get paid more? Some businesses do. But in the strictest sense of employee, a salaried person, I pay you X to do your job. And as long as I have no way to control how hard you work, I don't know how hard you work. You can pretend to be working hard, but not too much at all. And if your individual effort isn't identifiable to the company outcome, I can pretend to work hard all day long and then get paid. That's the principal agent problem. You're hired to work, but because I can't really observe whether you work or not, whether you work hard or not, you have an incentive to just not work hard and play along. The second one is called, there's no name, but when we separate people, we're separating shareholders and creditors, debt and equity. Previously, I told you they're both owners of the company, but we're going to see some situations where their incentives can lead to conflicting strategies for both parties. So let's first go for the moral hazard, with the principal agent problem. Principal agent problem requires information asymmetry, but this is a different information asymmetry. This is more about what you do. And this happens a lot, in many industries, financial industries in particular, insurance as well. Imagine a situation like this, right? For insurance industries, this example is more to do with what's called property casualty insurance, like when you buy insurance for cars. If you drive a car with no insurance, versus driving a car with first-class insurance, you drive in the same way. If the car is insured, then I can drive at ease. If the car is not insured, then I pay a bit more attention. Moral hazard says when you are obligated to do something, but you don't do, and there's no way to verify that you do, this can lead to problem. When insurance companies write you the insurance contract, they think you're a good driver. But the moment you receive the contract, you're no longer a good driver because you're protected by the contract. But the insurance company has no idea that you change your behavior already. It is information asymmetry about the action you take. You take a different action that is bad for the insurance company, but the insurance company can't verify that. Put that into the principal agent context. I hire you to work very hard. You pretend to work very hard. I have no way to verify that you work very hard. So you get away with it. Okay. So what this means is, when you hire employees to work, they could be not working at all, or they could be doing things you don't even want them to do. With that person against. This is what the moral hazard problem comes in. They use the moral hazard because when I employ you to work as an employee, you're morally obligated to work as hard as you could. But moral obligation doesn't work in absence of some way to verify whether you work or not. So without the mechanism to verify whether you work hard, then too bad. I'm just going to pretend to work hard and then enjoy myself instead. So there are a couple of ways for you to solve this. The carrot and the stick approach, which essentially just means, do I punish them, or do I reward them? Rewarding mechanisms is about aligning incentives. A lot of you, when you work, you probably have bonuses. That's one way to align your incentive. if you work hard and therefore your hard work translates to higher company profit, you should get a share of that profit as well. And this then motivates you to work harder. We talk about some financial contracts that allow you to kind of gear up this reward mechanism. But one way companies go about this is to give shares to shareholders. That's why to employees. I'm going to give you salary and also some shares, so that if you get the share and the share price goes up, then you grow with the company as well. So that's the incentive part. And you've seen this in many, probably in OB class or something. We're going to go with the stick instead. Stick punishment. But how do you punish? Well, if you have to punish, you have to punish the right person. So for you to be able to punish, you have to know whether they are violating your agreement first or not. So what can monitoring? How can it take place? So I have a friend who owns several suit stores. He has a very lovely wife that has to check up with my friend all the time. So if my friend says, I'm going to go to this store today, then she would turn on her smartphone back and look at the CCTV of that store. Oh, you're really there? Okay, fantastic. Okay, so that's one way, right? Literally monitor. I see you, so I know you're there. I know you work hard. I used to work at Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago, like a Bank of Thailand equivalent of an office in Chicago, as a research economist. And I had a login, actually more than one login. There's so many logins you have to use, and they can't be the same password or usernames either. So that means I lose my password all the time. So I got to know the IT department pretty well. So one day I went to the IT department for them to help me with my password. And there's a very interesting looking screen in that room, like a pie chart that shaped all the time. What's that? Oh, this is the traffic flow inside the Federal Reserve right now, so we can see what people are using and so on. So what do you think, what's the highest usage of internet at Federal Reserve back then? Mind you, this is 2012. So what were people using the internet for? Facebook? Good guess? No, Facebook, zero. Because it's banned. You can't use it. Okay, not Facebook. What else? YouTube, close. Americans don't watch a lot of YouTube. Thai people do. They watch something else instead.
Huh?
It's in Thailand now too. Netflix, thank you. Netflix. About a third of traffic on Federal Reserve Chicago traffic was Netflix. Like, oh, they watch Netflix. Yeah. I can even see that screen if you like to. Huh? From that point onward, I stopped logging on to the Federal Reserve Bank Chicago Wi-Fi. I use my own internet, thank you very much. Because they know exactly what you do. Okay? That's monitoring. If you know what your employees are doing, then no problem, right? And then companies right now, they're trying to track like email traffic and logins and so on to predict, is this employee going to be a good employee? Is this employee likely to quit in the future? And machine learning algorithms that analyze your workplace information flow to try to categorize, are you a good employee or not? That's scary already now. But that's like somewhat in the future. Okay? If you have to instill this, you monitor everyone along the way, you feel very pressured. So is there an alternative to this? It turns out there is. When we talk about corporate governance is essentially a replacement of a monitoring mechanism. It's a check and balances. I don't need to watch you every step of the way, but if there are some certain actions that could be detrimental to either employees, shareholders, other stakeholders, then I need to have the right procedures for such actions to be able to be executed. So you can't do these out of your own volition, out of your own initiative. There have to be enough eyes to acknowledge this. So that's the way to solve this moral hazard problem. I'm going to skip this first, then talk about this. We're going to talk about stock options instead. So I want to highlight you some of the conundrum that you have as a company that has lots of resources. It's Professor Milton Friedman, Nobel Prize laureate. I think he's passed away now, but he's one of the most influential minds. What he said about spending money, by the way, he used this to talk about taxpayers' money. But you can use this in and replace taxpayers' money with companies' money too. What he said is that when you spend somebody else's money for yourself, then you're pretty careful about how you spend because you have to justify, right? But as long as you make a justification, no matter how much, as long as that justification comes up, you can spend. But when you spend somebody else's money on somebody else, you don't think a lot at all. Because I'm not doing it for myself, I'm doing it for everyone. So easy to justify. And number two is not my money. Easy to spend. Taxpayers' money. But okay, from company's perspective, what does this relate to? Well, a company that have lots of resources, right? They can spend a lot on whatever thing I think is necessary. Our company is very international. So we go to many countries, visit lots of offices around the world. I know you can afford to fly in first class, but even if you fly first class, you have to spend 1 or 2 hours at the beginning and 1 or 2 hours at the end. So that's like 3 or 4 hours that I waste in airports before I can go. Why not buy me a private jet instead so that I can minimize the time lost per trip? Right? And, be more productive. Of course, the company has money, so we can afford to buy a private jet or two, right? Okay, approved. The thing is, every plane has a unique registration number. It's called a tail number. Okay, when you go on a plane, you can go and have a look at the end. It's like 6 or 8 digits, I'm not sure, with alphabets and numbers. That's unique to this plane. No matter who owns it, this plane will have this unique serial number. Every plane needs to be registered with the Civil Aviation Authority, so you know who owns that plane. Every flight need to be registered with the Aviation Authority, so you know when the plane takes off, what's the flight path, where does it go. So a researcher from New York University went to request this information from Civil Aviation Authority and match the planes to companies first thing. What they found out was that companies that have private jets, their stocks underperform other companies. Can afford to buy private jets. What else are executives spending money for? Right? Their performance tend to be. Another research paper looks at the flight path now is more detailed. But you were saying that you're going to use it for work, right? Okay, I'm going to check your flight plans. Where do you go? When do you fly? So you fly weekends. Where do you go? Oh, beaches, ski resorts. You call that work? Maybe you some deals you negotiate in, on golf courses, on ski slopes. But you were supposed to be in office during that time. Why is this plane going to resort? Oh, it's your family. So, caught red-handed. Why can companies do this? Why can companies do this? Because they can afford to do so. Have you heard of this argument from your friends? Well, why are you doing this? Because I can. Same thing. Why are you buying this plane? Because I can afford to. Why can you afford to? I have a lot of cash. This is called the free cash flow hypothesis. When a company has a lot of free cash flow, you can accumulate cash very easily. So you don't think a lot about spending. I am the CEO. I'm buying this plane on behalf of all my shareholders. Not my money. Can be my money too. I own shares in the company too, because as CEO, you're supposed to have skin in the game, ownership in the company too. But how much do I own? Oh, 5%. So I pay for 5% of the jet, but I get to use it 100%. Fantastic deal. Still, let's do it. So not enough to prevent them from doing that. And remember, they do it because they can. Many other cases, right? Around 1970s, oil price went up crazy, double 1 year, double another year. So if you're an oil company, you have a ton of cash to spend. What do you think those oil companies in the US spend their money on? What will you guess? As an oil company, I have a lot of cash on hand. What's the best way to spend my cash?
Sports teams?
Let's buy a baseball team, right? Let's buy a football team. Let's buy a basketball team. What happens to those teams? Just because you have the money doesn't mean you can run the team. Right now they're also the expertise. So they wasted a ton of money. But why you buy them? I don't know. I just have the money. I can come up with justification later. So, how do we solve this? What's the answer to this question? Let me translate this with you. If I run out of passion, then how do you prevent myself from running out of passion? What do you think is the answer? If you run out of passion in life, how do you ignite the fire in your life again? Study MBA. Turns out that's the right answer. Just have that. If you have that, you have to work. Nothing to do about passion. You just have to work or you die. Okay. Imagine for companies. I have a lot of money. So there's some operational improvements that my line manager proposed, but hey, you know what? We're profitable already. You don't need to do that, and we still can get by. Turn yourself into the other situation. If you're about to go broke, every little thing that you can do, you will do. Right? Imagine yourself, your house is burning down. You might not be a weightlifter. When your house is burning down, you can lift everything out of your house without knowing why. Because you just have to. It's a survival mode. If you live, in a lazy mode, you also get lazy output. Your company wastes a lot of resources. But if, on the other hand, you need to more alert mode, then you're more attuned to what you can do. Steve Jobs says, "Stay hungry, stay foolish," because of this reason. When you are hungry, you are more sharp. When you're full, you get sleepy. When you think you know, you stop learning. When you're foolish, you're still trying to fill your empty glass. So here that can help you. Not exactly help, but you had problems. We started off in most cases as a company in normal situation, but here we have problems. We just have too much cash. A nice problem to have, but it can be serious. So how do we solve this? Debt is a mechanism that transfers what you will have in the future into today. Right? Anytime you borrow money, you're using future income. So people worry about having debt because we may not have future income. Well, here we do have future income. And what's more important here is that the future income that we generate, we are on the path of wasting it. So that prevents wasteful behavior. Less free cash flow means less to waste. This is why, around the 80s and 90s, a lot of transactions, M&A transactions, were financed by a ton of debt. And this, if you want to read more on this, I suggest you read about the private equity industry. And the transaction here is called a leveraged buyout. So I go and buy a company, but I don't use a lot of money on myself. I use a lot of debt to finance the transaction. And the argument is this: I'm not doing it to kind of maximize my return per se. I'm using a lot of debt because I want to use debt to discipline these companies that are essentially fundamentally good, but they've been really lazy. So I'm going to add debt onto those companies in order to discipline them, so they have to go back to their productive service again. Okay, so that's one argument in favor of using debt to fix a problem. I think we don't have time to go to the next point, so let me pause over here, right, and then continue this. Maybe not next time, time after, because next time we have a guest lecture instead. But I hope you see, right? This section is not about the numbers. Okay? It's about the considerations, the trade-offs that you face when you make these financial decisions in your business building. In your circumstance, what is more relevant? You may want to choose a tool that is more appropriate. Not everyone's answer will be the same answer. Okay, right? So sorry about the miscommunication about the slides. I really thought I prepared it for you already, but that's a different class. So next time, I'll have it written out for you if you haven't done that so already. Right? Thanks very much. See you next time.
Thank you.